Hi, I'm Anna Maria, the head of the Goethe Institute in Lithuania, and I really just before my colleague Eyster from CAC will introduce the event formally, I would like to express our thank you for that we're able to be here at Čemetze, and also say a few words about the evolvement of this event, because actually it's part of a project called Aspects of Presence, which kicked off with a symposium at the Akademie der Künste in Berlin. And Eva Quistorp joined us at this symposium as a listener, and we came into conversation, and she really expressed the wish to meet with Professor Vytautas Landsbergis once more after they had met a long time ago. And I think it's very beautiful that we can make this re-meeting happening today. And I want to thank you for this very beautiful panel, and also for Laima for moderating, and for Professor Landsbergis for being here tonight, and Eva for being here. So thank you so much on behalf of Goethe Institute.
So good evening and very warm welcome to you all, and thank you so much for coming. Here at the CC we have this immense pleasure to host a discussion called Pipes and Borders, Europe's Paths and Missteps, a conversation with Professor Vytautas Landsbergis and Eva Quistorp, which is moderated by Laima Krivytė, who's an art historian, curator, and writer. Professor Vytautas Landsbergis is a Lithuanian statesman, political and cultural figure, cultural historian, pianist, and museologist. Signatory of the 11th March Act of the Independent Lithuania. He is also a member of Cultural Catholic Academy of Science since 1997, and also a Doctor of Humanities since 1994. He's a honorary doctor and an honorary member of more than 15 universities, including the Sorbonne in Paris. And Eva Quistorp, another guest, is a former member of European Parliament representing the German Greens. She currently serves as a member of the European Parliament's Ukraine lobby group and as a senator advisor at the World Future Council. In 1979, she co-founded the Green Party together with artist Joseph Beuys. And later, she supported solidarity initiatives including Charter 77. Inspired by Graham Common Women's Chain in March 1983, she began organizing human chains against nuclear weapons and encouraged peace groups in southern Germany, including Action on the 22nd of October in 1983, which gathered more than 250,000 participants. She's also a co-founder of Women for Peace, the Ball Foundation, and the Global Women's Climate Justice Network. And this event is the event is a part of an event program for the exhibition called Bells and Cannons, Contemporary Art in the Face of Militarization. It's co-organized by the Contemporary Art Center and the Goethe Institute in Lithuania. And also is a part of a project, as Anna mentioned, Aspects of Presence, which is co-organized by the Goethe Institute in Lithuania, Contemporary Art Center, and Akademie der Künste. So without further ado, I give my word to Laima Krivytė, and hope you enjoy the evening.
Hello, everybody. It's an immense pleasure to have two such distinguished guests who are very dear to our European projects, who established new ways of fighting for freedoms, new ways of being brave, being a stateswoman and a statesman, and also new ways of connecting political life, and artistic strategies. So I would like to start from what unites our freedom paths. I'm sorry, there's like some echoes. Now I would think that somebody is listening to us. Okay, well done. Listen to us. Okay, so you, Eva, organized many human chains. One of the most important was in 1983, where lots of people, like thousands of people, joined together. 250,000. So I would like to compare, to know more of historical context about this human chain, and then I would like then to ask later Professor Vytautas Landsbergis about the Baltic Way and the relationship with this chain. So please.
Yes, good evening, guten Abend. I'm very happy to be the first time in my life in Vilnius. But I'm dreaming and thinking of Vilnius at least since 1989, because you know that I went to study in Berlin in 1965, and I met Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, there as a young girl when he came to Berlin. So Berlin then became my city, and you know a little bit about Berlin. And in the time, which was very historic, there are many similarities anyway between German history and your history, and you had these big changes in between 89 and 91. You had other changes and trouble before, but so we were in a way in this crisis and trouble and chaos and maybe a lot of hopes, and in that trouble and chaos where Europe in a way started to grow together, or maybe not grow together, but maybe it felt together, like falling walls, falling stones, and was not everything well organized and easy. I met a young Jew who was, from a family from Vilnius. And I did not know, I must say, nothing about the Baltic states when I was 40 years old. I know a little bit Latin America, and I know some African countries, and I knew, because it's so important, a lot of Polish, German history, but in a way, at that time, the Baltic states were even more far away than I now think. They are too far away from many Western and Southern Europeans. And one of the reasons is that I want to build a human chain, either in spirit or in art or in political action with you now. And I wanted to bring my thanks to him and all the people he has worked together, because that gave us so much hope when we then suddenly saw the human chain in 89. And on that special day, which is a too much forgotten day in European history and mind, that the day of the Hitler-Stalin Pact on the 23rd of August. But as I became founder of the Greens, I maybe tell you that in the beginning, the Greens, with my friend, on the one side, Joseph Beuys, on the other side, a leading feminist, Petra Kelly, she was very anti-Stalinist, like I too. So we have a tradition of communists and of Maoists and left radicals in Germany too, and they are coming again, and we have troubles. But I'm happy that in some of the founding figures of the Greens were very clear, anti-Nazi and anti-Stalinist. It's not, as you can see in the German debates about Ukraine and Putin now, it's not clear for all Germans, and we have a special problem because we had West Germany and East Germany. And East Germany, there are still a lot of traditions from the former Communist Party and a sort of nostalgia that certain things have been nice, a little bit like Orban in Hungary. So the human chain I saw, I think only shortly in television, it was like a dream for me. See, I thought, how wonderful. History can have moments which are wonderful, where something is healing, where something is really the best sides of people's power, better sides of people's power are coming through. And the interesting thing was that the head of the Goethe Institute, he was a young boy at the time when I was organizing the human chain, but the idea was coming from women in England and Ireland who had done at the time when the nuclear weapons were deployed in the 80s in Western Europe, and some Russian nuclear weapons in East Germany. I do not know if have there been any nuclear weapons here in the Baltic states? Do you know? Do you know? Ah, yes. So we just had our narrow view in Italy, in the Netherlands, and in West Germany. There should be built new nuclear weapons, and then some Russian nuclear weapons in East Germany. And the big peace rallies we have organized within 4 years in West Germany mostly did not speak about SS-20, which are the Soviet nuclear weapons. But we had a little group within the Greens and within peace researchers and linked with some artists who at least saw this. And in a way, the human chain in South Germany, inspired by me with these wonderful British women, they surrounded a military base in England, which is normally with, was heißt Stacheldraht? With barbed wire. So it is not easy. It's not nice human chain in the, I don't know. It's not idyllic. It was dangerous. And they put pictures of their children at this military barbed wire, and were standing there for some days. So that gave me the idea, what you have been relating to, how art can inspire good politics. That this embracing was changing in a way. Their action for me was not just a political action, but an action of art in a way. Public art, yes, a form of community, people's, simple people's art. And it first was showing women can be in public. That was not so normal at that time in Western Europe neither. And women can even do it alone. That was totally new from the 70s. And that they could stay peaceful. So there was not any problem with the police. They had this non-violent spirit. And that meant that women could not only be young women there, but that it is a form of action, and for me a form of public art, where you can be with old people and with very young people. So you see, you do not have to be a strong hero
Yes.
to do that type of fight against militarization or for peace. So that was for me an inspiration that there can be good public art. You see, the history of Nazi time and of Stalinist time is a history of public art too, where the Nazis or the Stalinists have been organizing the masses. You will know. And so in a way, I see the human chain, which was not organized by the state, but it was organized by ideas growing from below and interconnecting people. That was a spirit of community, a spirit of nonviolence, and a spirit of hope. And so I'm so happy that you made it possible that we two meet today.
Yes.
Because we should not forget that history, I think, of that human chain, which is in between public art and democratic politics in Europe. And I think in these times with Trump and Putin, we need forms where we Europeans can stand together, not just by TikTok or Facebook or video art or so, but that maybe we both old politicians and activists, and I play piano too, but not so good as him, that we can inspire you and your generation to think about that is your heritage, that is your good heritage, these human chains in Europe. And how can we think about that we bring some of that heritage to our days now?
So thank you, Eva. It was very interesting context, especially that we learned that human change existed many years before, both from British activists and then in Germany, thanks to Eva. But now I would like to ask Professor Vytautas Landsbergis about the Baltic Way and maybe even to move further, because the Baltic Way basically was a remembrance of Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. So I would like to quote from Vytautas Landsbergis from his speech, which was given at European Parliament in October 14th, 2009. The year is important. The conference was Europe 70 years after the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And Vytautas Landsbergis said, "The Berlin Wall still exists. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact has not disappeared either. Where do you see it?" someone may ask. Look at the Putin-Schröder Pact on the Baltic pipeline, once again sign behind our backs. But first of all, look closely at a particular mindset of Soviet communism, now mutated into nationalism, and the ambitions of its representatives to enslave neighboring nations and territories again and again and again and again. So this was written in 2009. Yes. I remember that at that time, many people in Europe and even in Lithuania, they thought that, oh, maybe professor sees too many things, but because Russia has changed, now they just want to trade, not to fight. And people were suspicious, but in the end it turned out that actually the professor was right. So I would like to ask Vytautas Landsbergis, does the Berlin Wall still exist? And what has changed since then? Professor, please, I just quoted your speech where you said that it's still there. So what do you think? If nowadays, can we say that still, the wall still exists?
Okay, thank you very much for your attention. The old good times which have been mentioned, there were times when we could speak about Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact as a past and as a danger for today. It was then. Now it is not for today. Now it is for tomorrow. And in a new form of governance, not just over neighbors of fascist Russia or fascist Germany, as then. Now it is about the destiny of Europe. And will or can the Europe survive as a community of democracies? Or it will be destroyed as community of democracies until becoming not a community or not of democracies. Now what you see, it is not a Berlin Wall on the same place. Berlin Wall is moving, and moving, unfortunately, westwards. It is quite easy to predict that in a bad result of elections in Germany and in France, we will have all Europe taken by Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, being enforced to follow and to rule orders from Moscow, or maybe Moscow in accord with Washington. If Washington will go the same way of new Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, how to govern the world, to govern by force, issuing orders and punishing those disobedient. Because disobedience in Stalinist times and later was treated as a betrayal of the nice ideals of the mankind, because the true or right way to those ideals was a dictatorship of stupid dictators. But you could not say that they are not the most wise in the world, because this way you were becoming the enemy of the people, not the enemy of communism or enemy of stupid dictatorship, but the enemy of mankind, because they were mankind. The communism, those communists of limited mind, they stated about themselves, we are the people, we are the mankind, we are the future of mankind. Who is against us is against the bright future. Who is against the bright future is an enemy of the people. And no enemy of the people has a right to live. What? Very simple formulas. And they are now again on course. When we see that aggressive trend and desire of ruling by orders of that stronger. Stronger is right. Weaker is loser. That is very clearly fixed today by Kremlin and servants of Kremlin. Even such as leader of Hungary and similar guys of interesting mind. So we are on a threshold of new times, which may appear being the very old times when the world was ruled by orders of Stone Age. And my stone is bigger of yours than I am master. And please listen carefully and be obedient, or you will be destroyed in the name of the bright future. It's the same. Nothing is changing. There was a period of some illusions, even in my times, when I was still somebody. There were some illusions that maybe Russia is able to develop towards democracy, maybe, but the policy makers in Russia just laughed on such illusions. Those illusions worked for them. It's good that the West is losing the time. I see here a very solid book.
I will give it to Goethe Institute,
Yes.
because it is related to our debate. Is from she is in a way the woman who started the Peace Nobel Prize.
No more weapons. No more weapons. Say it.
Yes, Bertha von
Say
Suttner.
it to Mr. Putin. Come
Sorry?
to Moscow, say it, Mr. Putin.
Yes, and
you will be
he
in
reacted
the
very
jail.
quickly and said,
The same day you are in
down
jail.
with the weapons, say
As a
to Putin.
warmonger.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you are openly about the peace, you are a warmonger.
So Professor Vytautas Landsbergis just said very important things about the future of Europe, which looks quite grim today, because yesterday we marked the 4th anniversary of full-scale aggressive invasion of Russia to Ukraine. And I was in London yesterday, and I was interested how this very important, crucial event in Europe is represented in the newspapers. So, of course, I went to the local kiosk to check what's on the front page. And none of the newspaper had the war on the front page. There were some Epstein files, some local politics, something. There was some news about Orban blocking the package of sanctions, and that only this free newspaper, Metro, which is given for free in Metro, they had that very front page with Zelensky, Ukrainian people, and the title, 4 years in tears. So in a way it was sad that Ukrainians are fighting. This is the most important fight of Europe, of all of us. And then we are somehow pretend that we are just living our normal lives and nothing is happening, which is, I think, terrible. So I would like to ask you both, how do you see war in Europe? What do you imagine? I mean, we are not prophets here, I know, but like how you imagine the future and what could be done about this, about this horrible aggressive war? Professor, would you like to speak about the war in Ukraine and what could Europe do ideally?
May I add one question?
Thank you.
Yeah. Because you are wiser than we all and you have much more life and political experience than we all here. When you have been member of the European Parliament, did you see what would come with Putin? Did you recognize very early what the type of gangster and mafia boss Putin is?
Klausia, ar jūs iš karto atpažinot, kad Putinas gangsteris, banditas, kaip saka?
Of course, because we always tried to look at the deeds based on true ideology, what is expressed directly by the vocabulary, by the formulas of policy mongers or policy makers. Those ideas were always aggressive and intended for the future of the Europe governed by Russia. Because everybody, as in Stalin times, everybody who was opposing this trend of Moscow governance was an enemy. All people, all working class, you see. So every enemy of bourgeoisie class should be destroyed physically or maybe destroyed economically and politically, not playing any role. That the one role which is politically played is the dictatorship of communists. And they went forwards and forwards with this expansionism of Moscow and Stalin and post-Stalinist times. And then after the short period of hesitation, maybe Russia will wish to build a democracy. No, guys, be calm, no democracy will be there. We know better. We are the masters, we know better. Keep silent or you will be silent forever. That is the very old mentality of Stone Age.
You see, he never would have been elected in Germany with that prophetic and very clear view, because I don't know who is from Germany or who knows it. We had established Western Germany with a new, rather good democratic constitution in 1949, and on the other side, the German Democratic Republic. And in West Germany, where I grew up, we had a tradition then very slowly only by the churches and the trade unions, the Social Democratic Party, to remember the crimes which the German Wehrmacht had done, and it was mostly said had done in Russia. It's very strange that the crimes, what the German Wehrmacht did from the beginning of 1st of September 1939 in Poland and then in Belarus with burning villages and synagogues, and the occupation of Czechoslovakia, that was in the public history and public debates for that Germany should become a democracy now, should be part of the West now, and that we had the Nuremberg Tribunal, you know, and then really parts of the churches and trade unions, and I must say very late, and not in art too is a question. How did art and science then learn about what the crimes of German history in the Second World War? And I was young there, so I learned nothing about the Second World War at school. It was not at all in school, and even when I became a student in 1965. We had one of the reasons that we had such a strong student movement in the 60s in West Germany was that we thought we are now the better young people. Now we are young and we change the world. We forget what our fathers or mothers did bad, and now we are young and revolutionary and change the world for the better. One good thing in our dreams and naivete was that we went into looking into history more precise, what lawyers, scientists, doctors had done to support torture and concentration camps, the gas, and so on. But there was always a debate that in a way that German, I think 20 million, yes, Soviet people died, but in memory and talks, it was always related that 20 million Russian died. So there is a big gap in between what you know and how some from the Baltic Way and chain and your historians or your people who have been fighting Stalinism and have been to Siberia and so on, that you had much more a complex and realistic view of both systems, and that Germany only learns very in a difficult and slow way now how we find the words against totalitarianism. So I thought maybe that I'm here now in Vilnius and we are all very near to former Königsberg, with not only with Kant, but here nearby was born Hannah Arendt. And Hannah Arendt is now a sort of pop star in culture and intellectual debates in Germany, but she was in a way forbidden in the 60s in the West to read because she was too anti-communist. You understand? So I'm very happy that I can be here and that we can be together, we three, and that I really want to encourage you to think about how, if we want to stay a democratic and free Europe, and to be together with the 27 or more states, probably, hopefully, in the next years, we have to learn more about our common history and exchange it. Not to have one history book only, yes, that we all think the same, not in that sense. But we have to be complementary. What the Germans do not know, even the good-willing Germans do not know, and we all have to look in our family history more precise and into the history of science and of art, because there have been always artists too on the side of total. Artists are not, because they are artists, they are not just better and more moral and always civil rights fighters. So we have both. You can find civil rights fighters within art and within science and within politics, and you have the other side. And I think that with that dangerous right-wing party in Germany, AfD, and Le Pen in France, and then Orban and Fico, and in Great Britain, you have these right-wing parties too. It's really your and our common task. On which ground, on which intellectual and moral and ethical ground we are keeping Europe together. So because I think only because my father was anti-Stalinist and not just anti-Nazi, my brother, my sister and I, we all were radicals in the 60s, and then we all were with the Greens, and my poor father never could see that his daughter now is very clearly against Putin, because you see, we did not want to listen that there is not just, we wanted to be a little bit revolutionary, and I find the same so I never was communist, I never was Maoist, but it seems that there is a sort of a seduction. What you are saying, they say they represent the moral, they represent the better, they represent the poor, huh? That is coming back in some parts of the world. And what we are debating now with my East European friends and East European scientists and writers and artists from Ukraine, which are many living now in Berlin, that there has not been only capitalist and Western colonialism, but that in Western Europe and in Germany, the colonialism of the Russian Empire and of the Soviet Union is in a way no intellectual term, and that if we speak about colonialism and imperialism, we have to put together critics to colonialism of Great Britain, Germany, Italy, France, Eastern Europe has not such a colonial history. Therefore, I never speak about European colonialism because that is unfair related to Poland or Lithuania and so on, but that we have to know more about the old history of Russian imperialism, and that we have to support our friends from Ukraine and especially those from Belarus, too, that they get funding to express their own history, and that we have to weave these memories together. Yes, in a way, to weave it together, we have not so much time, I would say, because one of Putin's weapons is not just tanks or gas pipelines or walls. So the old means have been the wall in Berlin and the gas and oil pipelines, but nowadays Putin has the internet too, China and Putin, Iran and Trump. So maybe we have to think about too that we have to know about the pipelines, how dependent they make us, and how they feed corruption. And we have to look where old walls in Europe have to be, and how they can be overcome. But then look how new types of walls, maybe walls you can't see, they are not out of stones, but they can be out of history books, they can be out of demagogy, or they can be aus, was heißt Desinteresse? Oder, the lack of interest can be a big split in societies and between different societies too, that you just, yes, you are occupied with your daily life, you want to do tourism in Europe, you want to earn money in Europe, and you do not want to see the dangers. But I think it's very important, especially for art and intellectuals, that they help us early enough to see the real dangers, which are maybe unseen walls and the manipulation power of the so-called social media and the IT oligarchs.
Thank you, Eva. So you brought already us closer to the exhibition Bells and Cannons, which actually is very political, and I like it about this exhibition that it has clear views, especially when we think about Philip Goll, Oleksiy Radninsky, Hito Steyer, and the history of gas pipe. I can remind also the Estonian pavilion in 2008 at Venice Biennial of Architecture, where there was a gas pipe built from Russian pavilion towards German pavilion in Giardini, 63 meters. It was very powerful, 2008. So art was able to tell things which politicians ignored. So now I would like to switch our attention towards artistic strategies and how your encounters with art helps to do political gestures. And I'm asking Vytautas Landsbergis, who was called by Namjoon Paik as a Fluxus president. I would like to quote Namjoon Paik from Art Forum 1991, March, where he said, "The East European Revolution produced a playwright President Václav Havel in Czechoslovakia, but few people know that it also produced a Fluxus president, Vytautas Landsbergis, the president of Lithuania." And his text is Too Many Giants, meaning many because it's from small countries. Vytautas Landsbergis, and George Mačiūnas, and Vytautas Landsbergis and George Mačiūnas, they were classmates. So I would like to ask Vytautas Landsbergis how your experiences at Fluxus presidents, as somebody in Lithuania who started first Fluxus event in Lithuania, still Soviet Lithuania in 1966. Do you feel that this artistic movement, this Fluxus, somehow helped you in a way? For example, when you addressed Mikhail Gorbachev, Your Majesty, in a letter. So it was not very typical at that time.
To put aside the jokes, but Fluxus was the greatest joke. But for a time we may put it aside. And Your Excellency Gorbachev was also a joke, but not only the joke. It was a real vocabulary of conversation between the normal states as normal democracies. We did not have great hopes that Gorbachev is happy of that type, and he is happy of being treated as a normal president of normal state. No, he was insulted. He reminded all long years afterward how he was cheated when he was addressed as His Excellency. But it was exactly the direct idea was of a writer Saulius Šaltenis, who said, hey, they wanted to be democracy, they want to be normal state, they please tell to them as normal states are telling to each other. Of course, he is a ruler of a state and he is therefore a president, and president is excellency. Why we have to torture ourselves in search, what to say, Mikhail or then Mikhail Sergeyevich, he will not say to me, Vytautas Vytautovich, but sometimes he tried. Oh, Vytautas, listen what I just will say you. Of course, I was listening. But when he said me for a farewell, go Vytautas home and think about what you have heard now, what I have said to you. I went out saying goodbye, but you please think as well once more about what you did. So I always tried to be on normal track. On normal track as maybe between normal politicians, normally cooperating in that field which is called policy. For him, policy was a dictatorship. For me, policy was cooperation. So it is that was a very difficult dialogue. We had no common vocabulary for our conversation. But stop with these jokes about the excellency. But when Lithuanian delegation, after the proclamation of independence, went first time to Moscow, my first question to Russian colleagues, and the delegation was ruled by Prime Minister Ryzhkov, I asked, let's agree in what language we will speak now between themselves. To go to Moscow and ask about language, it was already an insult, maybe, for them. But they were so surprised, they did not even to feel insulted. Why? What language? What is the... Yes, I said, for any case, we can speak Lithuanian, we can speak Russian, we have also translators. We can use the third language, English, for our documentation, what will now just work. If there is a difficulty for you, dear colleagues in Russia, we agree to speak Russian. It is our grace for you. And they agreed to take this grace and to speak Russian, but not because we went to a master. The slaves came to a master, and there is no question about language. No, it is a question. The one state comes to another state and asks what language we will use for our conversation. And it was the first step towards that, Your Excellency. You are a leader of a country, even if not elected. Gorbachev was never elected. A president or a chairman of Congress of Deputies, he was just appointed by Communist Party. They made such a tricky rule that for the first Congress of People's Deputies, they are representatives appointed by organizations. Among those organizations, number one was Communist Party. In 1 year, we achieved the cancellation of Communist Party as a political power. You see what steps should be done towards democracy and towards the normal existence of our states in Europe. We felt us in Europe and staying for defending the principle of Europe. They were on the side of dictatorship, as the ancient Russian Empire, which knew only the tsars and governors. But we don't treat them as governors. If you want, of course, you can send your tanks, you can the armored cars, that you can use the military force and then prove that you are the same dictators, the same tsars as 100 years before. Nothing more, nothing new. You are telling always about the new world order, new. Where is your new world order when you are sending tanks to Vilnius? It is your new order? Excuse, guys, it is not true. We are for negotiations, for talk, for dialogue. You are for order. And you are speaking from the position of ordering force. And you demand obedience. Okay, it was centuries ago. The same always. Don't lie that you are for changes, that you are for new democracy spirit in Russia. Nothing similar. You are lying. You are lying for your unfortunate people, which is accommodated to constant lying of governors. But we don't like it. We cannot treat your lying seriously. So, Mr. Gorbachev, excuse us, we are going home. You may stay in your Moscow being very happy and putting one more portrait of Comrade Stalin.
That was a very important piece of information and like really a feeling how brave Vytautas Landsbergis was, and it was amazing at that time. I remember myself being a student and witnessing this way of communicating. It was very inspiring for younger generation, similarly as we are now inspired by Ukrainian people who are not submitting, not stopping, like they are fighting against this much bigger aggressor. And now we have to find new strategies, new ways. And Eva, you wanted to add something too.
Yes, because I saw the irony and humor in the eyes of Mr. Landsbergis, and then I thought when I studied German literature, I always was interested in a lot of novels and poems and so on, but there is one tradition what is important, I think, to strengthen civil spirit and to be a good democratic politician and not just betray people and lie. And I think that's a tradition of satire. How do you say it in English? Yes, that political cabaret and satire, written satire, satire in film, in posters and so on. I think I learned a lot from that, and I I know, you know, there have been jokes in East Germany and jokes in Nazi time in Germany. Maybe we should remember that too, that there was little resistance and not enough resistance, neither in socialist East Germany nor in fascist Nazi Germany, but there has been a tradition of jokes. And you could be arrested to prison in East Germany, even the last years before the falling down of the wall, because of a political joke. And in a way, you dared to make a very fine political joke, which is, I think, in that sense, art, and working either with language or with pictures or with collage and so on. It can be a teaching in understanding and observing power. That means power can be good, but observing power, which like slavery, which like seduction and manipulation, to develop your sense, either in language or in viewing with pictures and so on, what is show, what is manipulation, what is misusing your feelings. And so I think I had a little training in that too, that I never was obeying to power. And I was in Kremlin invited to a World Women's Conference in 1987. So this here blue book, I got in Moscow in 87. And I never thought that I ever would be in my life in Kremlin. And the strange situation was that there have been people from the indigenous people's movement and peace movement from the United States, very leftist people, and people from the peace movement in Western Europe, and they're always standing in line to say their wishes to Gorbachev. And so he was there, and I knew his translator, and he had always the same translator. I think you know the same translator. And I am so educated, critical to power. That means to power which can be misused, or maybe wants you to be only obeying and be a slave, more or less. That I even did not shake hands with Kennedy when I met him. And when I was standing there in Kremlin in line, I did not like that, in a way, these left peace activists from the US and Western Europe, in a way, were a little bit looking at Gorbachev only as a hero. That means putting him yourself on a much higher podest than maybe himself he wanted to be. So it's not always a sign that the power itself is repressing you, but that people, you see, that we are educated in a way, or that we have a culture which is not educating us to look through power and the power games and make ourselves, maybe we have some privileges by that, maybe I'm first in line to speak, maybe I'm invited to a gallery, maybe I'm quoted in the media. So we need our self-training not to be in a bad way obeying and make ourselves slaves. As women especially, we need a sort of self-training and self-empowerment. And the interesting thing was that when I got the mic in Kremlin, my first sentence was, "Mr. Gorbachev, retire all your troops from Europe." You see, the others were all saying things, Mr. Gorbachev, help us in our country, it's so bad, support us against the US government and the German government, they are so militaristic and so capitalistic. But I dare to say it only because I had a Jewish friend, older than you. At that time, he had been in a prison by Nazis and had in a prison by East Germany. So I needed myself, you see, some people you meet in life who have that experience, who teach you something, and always I can recommend now, try to meet such personalities who really lived something, who not just have a knowledge only by books, but in a way have that mixture in themselves. I think that political knowledge and art can give a sort of personal training, if you see. And that's the same. Do not adore art. Do not adore art, famous artists, wonderful art, but see it much more as a training for your soul, for your spirit, for your intellect, in a way that you can use art to train yourself, your senses, and your sense of critics, and your courage,
Yes, thank you, Eva. And now we are discussing very interesting things, but it's time to wrap up the discussion. And what is important for us is to what does it mean nowadays to be an European? What is this European identity? How can we define it? What can we do about it? Like when it's really, I think, in danger because of the war. And so I would like you both to say, what do you see? How do you see the future of Europe? And maybe I would like to quote one more thing by Vytautas Landsbergis, where he said that those Iskanders, they are still... Yeah, I mean, Vytautas Landsbergis said in 2017 that Russia is making this blackmail with these Iskanders, that they're threatening us with this nuclear threats, which they are doing still. But what is interesting is that he was saying those things in 2017 from his speech from the balcony of Signatory's house. So those threats were always evident, but we need to go and to see somehow through the things. We need to think about like, what is this new European identity, how it is affected by war. And I would like to ask Vytautas Landsbergis, how you imagine the future of Europe and what is the most important for us as Europeans?
I had published a little book in German. Yeah. Europa in Gefahr, yeah. And one article was there about the bright, possible idealistic future, living without Russia, Leben ohne Russland. It was Leben ohne Russland. That is terrible, especially for Germans.
Yes.
To live ohne Russland? Oh. We cannot. Yeah. What I could say to my friends Germans. No, please survive 40 years more, if you will survive, not becoming the huge DDR, because you are following this way towards DDR. And I caught myself on the understanding that Joe Stalin was not very stupid when he agreed to establish DDR as concession for West. Let be part of Germany, Western-like, yes? But he was wiser of them. He did not suppose that this eastern part of Germany will become Western-like. No, he supposed that the western part will become Eastern-like. And it is ongoing. After next elections, if AfD or Linke or somebody crazy, yet will not be in power in Germany, maybe Germany will still continue to play some role in Europe. But if Germany will become pro-leftist, pro-Russian, or Orbanist Germany, you can imagine, okay, why not? That is a great victory. The victory is already, Orban is a victory for Putin. If Madame Le Pen would win in France, this will be again a victory of Russia. And so Russia will overcome and take all Europe in pieces, in a salami style, the United States. Not all sausage together, but salami pieces. What is 2 salami pieces of Europe they already have cut out? It is Hungary and Slovakia. Now they have some hopes, but maybe Lithuania could become one more pro-Putinist European country. You don't want it, because what we can do, we can speak openly and with warning to our people, not to be stupid, not listen agencies, Putinist agencies, because they are very well paid by money. They have their own media, and they are fighting for the brain, for the still existing brain of the society. But when the brain is occupied, the society is occupied. Then if society does not exist as a society of an independent country, no military force, no efforts to be better armed have no sense, because generals will not agree to stand in defense of their country against our beloved friend Russia. And our beloved friend Russia will come and embrace us warmly in their...
Embrace us
like a beer embrace. The beer embrace
beer, yes.
It is proposal for Europe as well.
What I mentioned related to we not call them now broligarchs because they are billionaires and oligarchs in the IT scene. And Jewish Ukrainian friend of mine, she is living in Germany now since 10 years and younger, and she is quoted today in some German media because she said Putin does not need tanks anymore to overcome at least Eastern Europe, and now maybe come to Western Europe. At least the Russian propaganda television is always saying that they want to throw a nuclear bomb on Berlin, and they have special interest to do something against Berlin. In a way, they are more interested to have a second victory, or this victory over Berlin even bigger. And then she said, Putin does not need tanks now. If he has his type of oligarchy and bots and internet hacking and cyber war, he can easier win with that. And therefore, I think one of our duties now is to work together as civil and democratic society in the different European states against disinformation. And here I brought you, I'm just coming from Cafe Kiev, which is, we had the fourth time in Berlin, which was organized by the Adenauer Foundation, which is a political party of Merkel. But what they have been, and I was always critical to Merkel first because she was for nuclear energy, I'm against. Then she was doing all that talks with Putin, which I didn't like, and I think she had a sort of pacifying role for the German public. But she was not the only one, because at her side was Schröder and parts of the Social Democratic Party who, with a Druschba-line, had their old strategy, but there was two scientists too, and some artists and television people who, in a way, what Mr. Landsbergiu said, had this very naive, idealistic view of we have to deal with Russia, we have to live with Russia, they are more nearby to us than the United States. And yes, in a way, they worked like Putin and the propaganda is doing too. They worked with the German guilt feeling, they misused. And I criticize that with parts of the left of the Social Democracy and parts of our talk shows, they misuse the German guilt feeling related to the war. And in a way, that would be a very interesting art task too, to find out, because you need a fine, what heißt this, a sensorium. Like you have this very fine sensorium, this sense of irony and critics to power. You see it, you hear it, you feel it. But many Germans, that guilt feeling, which has good reasons, but it's like a blindness, seeing the Putin mafia system precise enough, and seeing how he's giving money to Romania, to Moldavia, how he's making with the pipelines, Hungary and Slovakia dependent, and how within German public and in reality we had drones above Hamburg, drones about stations of the German Bundeswehr. And in a way, you see, I come from the peace movement. I was a peace movement leader. Normally, I do not react like, let's throw something, let's do a military action. But I found Germany rather slow in reacting to the cyber war, which from Putin is going on since 2014. Huh? Yes, and I think our duty as intellectual students and so on is to work at least in the disinformation field. If you do not want to pay for arms for the Ukraine, if you do not want to give Germany or the European Union more money for weapons, but then at least work in the field against disinformation, and you can work in the civil sector. What I find very special with the war against Ukraine now is there are not only Ukrainians, young Ukrainians going to the army who are blind like some German soldiers have been in 1939. No, they are very intelligent, very committed Democrats in a way. They go to the military because they are Democrats. And that is new for German history, which with Prussia and then with Second World War, that you had to give away your democratic senses being member of the army. But nowadays, I think you can be member of the Bundeswehr even and have your democratic intelligence and your democratic courage within.
Let me say in response a simple and maybe uncommon word. What is the response? Stop lying. Stop lying, even from this case of the current war. War.
Yeah.
War.
What is war? Yes.
War where and between whom? It is still played, still not clear. Oh, no, it is not a war, it's just an action. On maybe some local action in such a locality as former Russia. It's still treated as an entity, one entity, including Ukraine. Ukraine then is internal matter of Russia. So you are giving already trump cards for Putin, for an aggressor. He tells always, there is no Ukraine, all is Russia, and tricks of imperialists. If we will crush imperialists, there will be no Ukraine, no Kazakhstan, no Lithuania. Everything is Russia. That is Putin, and he is a leader and dictator of great piece of territories, and so-called Eurasia. We would like very much that Eurasia would be over in the distant past. No, for him, Eurasia is the future, when he will be emperor of all this entity, Russia, including some weak states in Europe. They still ask for permission to live. And Russia will be graceful and to allow them to live some time yet. But why they don't want to understand the real situation, that they are humiliated, they are nicknamed, treated, Europeans, my friends, my good friends, why you allow such a humiliation on your heads, on your dignity? You are not allowed to speak about the war. Not now Europe won a little piece of liberty to use the word war. War. How long it was forbidden? Oh, it's a conflict, military conflict in Ukraine, always in Ukraine, not in Europe, not in Russia, not only in Ukraine. And what is then Ukraine? Geography, some piece of geography. Some crazy people could not realize that they are Russians, and they must be obedient to Moscow. And that is very simple. Why not resolve? Why you don't want to go the war of peace? Now, Ukrainians with their leadership are very bad warmongers. They don't want the peace. They don't want to capitulate. They don't agree to capitulate. Who are you? As Musk asked Sikorsky, who are you, little man? How many dollars do you have? Nothing, for your dollars are. Oh, my dollars are there. Yes? And then we are in what world of dollars we are living. And it is a pity that Sikorsky did not say him, you little Musk, with all your dollars, go to hell.
Vytautas Landsbergis always gives those exact phrases. He's not afraid to speak truth to the power, to anybody, to everybody. And it is important really to say the right words and to do the right things. And the future of Europe, of course, I think is in Ukraine. It's the heart of Europe now. And if we manage to stand by Ukraine, if we manage to focus, to be strong, to work together, to fight together, then maybe there is a chance for all of us. And now I would like to open a floor for the questions, maybe not much, maybe just one question, if such exists, or we can ask our prelegents after the discussion, just directly. So if there are no questions, so thank you very much. Let us thank the...
I know you have to warm up a little bit. I want at least 2 questions. So warm up.
Okay.
What is your prognosis? What do you say, Mr. Landsbergis and Eva? What do you say? When the war will end?
Not giving Tauruses to Ukraine, you are assisting Putin. That's very simple. You are on Putin's side. When Trump went to power in Washington, and he went with his first announcements, it was clear he is on Russia's side. He is already on Russia's side. And therefore, the situation of Ukraine looks very dangerous, because now not the Russia only, but also United States are against Ukraine. They are allegedly assisting, they are giving money, every day threatening that they will cancel. They may cancel any assistance to Ukraine if Ukraine is not obedient to orders of Washington. The main order of Washington is capitulation. Capitulate to Putin. And then I will give a Nobel Prize. What is all business? Great business of great power. And your future for me is nothing. Gimmicks. They are gimmicks. Your future, your liberty. If you don't want liberty, for what sake you this liberty? If you don't want to offer some money, if you rely only on American money, that's what is about what to speak with such a weak company.
What I forgot to say when we spoke about art, and what you remind me now when you speak about that strange relationship between Putin and Trump. as a feminist, I think I studied the first picture of Trump and the first photo I saw from Putin, and immediately I did not like them. And I had the feeling they need feminist resistance, this type of men. And so I organized the first women's rally against Trump Putin. And I did it on the 8th of March 2017. So at least we are a little bit near, we both, when still Merkel was negotiating with Putin and the dog. And I was very angry with her because at the Munich Security Conference, she was even saying, what was the name of the last president? She was, I was so upset. She is an intelligent woman. She had her own values, but she was pacifying the Germans for 16 years. And with a little bit of this GDR, be obedient, do not make too much noise, and do not be too ironic. Let things go very peaceful. And she was sitting at the Munich Security Conference, which is a rather important event. You know that Zelensky is there, and Biden was there, and now Rubio was there last year. Vance was there and gave a horrible speech where I was nearly ill afterwards. But Merkel was sitting there in 2016, and that was 2 years after the occupation of East Ukraine and the Crimea, and horrible torture and colonization going on in East Ukraine. German media did not report about. She was saying to the president of Ukraine, it was before Zelensky was elected, she was sitting, and as artists, you can observe things like that. The way she was sitting, you see that is body language. She was making herself bigger, and you cannot move me. Mr. Poroshenko also, I have been waiting in the GDR all the years till the wall falls down. So have some patience. I was so angry, but nobody dared to criticize her. And no journalist reported that scene, but I find that scene very, you see, you are so different characters, you and Miss Merkel, you see, you will say it very clear without being aggressive, but just clear. And a little bit with irony and humor, which is in a way a non-violent form. She is not, and Merkel was really, and that is a typical, not just for her, I think for some Germans, not for all. In a way, let's have our peace we have now, let's have our economy we have now, and we do not want to have problems. And I found it, because I have friends from East Germany who have been in prison and who protested. They have been only a minority, and that may be the problem, that we all say we want a Europe in freedom, and we all say we are for democracy, we all say we have been for the falling down of the wall, but it has been always minorities in the countries who have been fighting for freedom, standing for women's rights, standing for human rights. And so this minority, Merkel was not part of it, and in a way I think that blinded her with Putin, that she thought she can keep him in peace and convince him. But then I want to apologize in that sense to people from the Baltic states and from Poland, that then she I think even in 2017, when the new pipeline, because of pipelines and walls, the new pipeline was even established only in 2017. That means 3 years after Crimea occupation and torture and repression in Eastern Ukraine. She was really standing in a television press conference and saying, I will give the promise, you see, like I the majesty, I the queen of Europe, the queen of Germany, anyway, she was saying, I stand with my person that Ukraine will be in security, and that would be only a private business, that would be only business and not politics, and not war or peace politics, what was done with the pipelines. So I admire her intelligence, but I think, and we have not only to criticize Merkel, but Schröder is unbelievable for me. I know him personally from the time of the peace movement, but I cannot imagine how he could become so corrupt and with so much money. And I think he is very clear. But in Germany, you have the journalists needed at least 3 times to understand why Trump is not the old anti-Russian American, what they always thought the Americans are. But I think that maybe we studied not enough in the 90s that there has been a mafia cooperation from Russia with mafia parts in the United States, and what you can see with the oligarchs in London City and the oil and gas oligarchs and resources oligarchs in Russia and the US, that it seems that they work together much longer time than any scientist and journalist was observing. And now we see the bad results, that they are partly working together. So I always write Trumputine, one word.
Yes, that's a very good combination, which is exactly what we're facing now in the world. The good thing is that, yes, these are men in power, but majority of the population in the United States is pro-Ukraine. So hopefully people, that means us, will stand for the right causes, and we will be united despite of some our very unfortunate leaders. But I still want to finish this conversation with a little bit of hope, and let's be strong, and let's be united. Like we started from human chains, let's finish with human chains. Let's be together, and let's let's
prepare something for 23rd of August. Memory, yes?
Yes. So thank you very much for Eva and for Vytautas, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Goethe Institute and Contemporary Art Center.
And to make the human chain to Moscow.
To Siberia.
With all our European strength, stop the war. Stop the war.
Stop the war. Yes. Thank you.